My guest today is R&B. His music has been on our favorite playlists with songs like They Don't Know, Overjoyed, Don't Say, and Pretty Girl. Well, we got a new song that we can add to our playlist, and I'm so excited because new music is on the way, a new project. We have Waiting on You. Welcome to the Hybrid Soul with Kelly Kinkaid, Jon B. Hi, Jon. How are you doing?
Hello, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yes, yes. Like
Yeah.
I said, I'm so happy that we have this new song, Waiting on You, with our friend Tank. So
Yes, yeah.
I want to ask you, because it's been some time since we've had new music and a full project. What has Jon B been doing since you've had your last project?
Always on the road, always on the road, doing shows. That's
Yeah,
pretty much what keeps me busy all the time. Besides being a dad of two beautiful young ladies and a
yeah.
husband to my wife. So, the home life and all that, that'll keep you busy too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, during this time that you've been away, how has the writing process for you and just putting a new project together? What's been has it been beneficial being away from just constantly putting music out?
It's made it take a lot longer, I will say. This is the longest I've ever taken between albums, to deliver. And it's usually not a problem for me. It's not about, writer's block or anything about that. It's more about being a perfectionist. If,
Yeah,
if I could say that about myself, it's kind of a beautiful thing and sometimes not so beautiful thing because it puts me in a position where I'm only going to give you, for me, I want to give you my best work, and a lot of times we have to be our worst critic. So it takes, a little bit of growth. You have to go through it to get to it, as they say. I go out, I get that energy from the fans, knowing they want, they want new music.
yeah,
And until I give it to them, we're going to celebrate, the songs that I've put out so far. But it's really an energy charger every single time, and it lets me know how important it is for me to continue to do what I love, which is this music. Because I'm not gonna lie, like in the past 30 years of doing this, there's been times where I kind of like, I believed more than others, you know what I mean?
mhm,
My belief system was a little bit stronger. Now my belief system is incredibly strong right now. I'm so ready to put an album out. I feel like these 11 songs, it's only 11 records I'm giving you on here too, which is short and sweet, but it's very precise in my mind,
right,
it's a real nice way to come back to the world and say, this is how I feel right now, you know what I mean?
right.
As a grown man too, because a lot is, I've been through a lot, being that I'm a father, a husband, 17 years with my wife now, so it's a little bit different of a story, it's a little bit more grown up, a little bit more less is more, as they say, less is more. Sometimes it's about going back to the basics of like,
Yeah,
you know, like let's get back to chivalry, let's get back to love songs, let's get back to the basics, you know what I mean? So yeah, but Waiting on You is the first single from the album,
yeah.
featuring Tank, as you said, and I'm so excited to work with him. He's a great guy, and yeah, we met at a long time ago. We worked together on my Stronger Everyday album, 2004, and
Wow.
people who know the song lately, and the song Stronger Every Day, the title track of the album. Yeah, he featured on that, and he wrote the song lately for me. And I was on the backgrounds and all that. So we were no strangers to working with each other, but it was really cool to get back with him now. I pulled up on him on the R&B Money,
Yes.
podcast that he has, and we had a great build. And it was just great to reconnect. But I was also really excited to play him Waiting on You because it was just my voice in the beginning. Uh, it was my song, and I played it for him. I said, "Here's my new record. This is." But I told him, I was like, "You're a big influence on me, man. You always have been. So I hope you hear that in this." And then
Yeah.
he heard it, and he was just like, "Yo, I got to be on this." And I was just like, "Wait, gonna sing on the song?" I was like, "What?" I was like,
That's
"Really? That's really cool." So it came full circle for me, and yeah, he came to the studio, and it was just so easy to work with him. I mean, he didn't really want to change anything. He just wanted to add to it. So he wrote the bridge and just laced the bridge, and also played piano on it too as well. So
yeah.
yeah, it's just working with Tank is an experience. That's what I love is the real collaboration experience. Getting in actually in the lab with the artist. or whoever I'm collaborating with, and just let's get it. Yeah.
It sounds like that was so organic, working with Tank, and it reminds me of when you tell the story of the classic song "Are You Down with Tupac."
Are you still down? Yeah.
Yeah, are you still down? Yeah, that reminds me of just the organic vibe of it. Putting this
Yeah.
music out now and touring, are there artists that you see that are out now that you would like to work with, or and maybe do
Oh
a
yeah.
collaboration?
Oh yeah, for
Anyone?
sure, for sure.
Who are you listening to?
Oh man, I love Daniel Caesar. I really love Daniel Caesar. I love uh what's his name? I mean, there's so many. But
Yeah.
there's also guys from my era too that I still want to collaborate with. I still want to collaborate with D'Angelo and Music Soul Child and Maxwell. I'd love to collaborate with Sade in any way, be a fly on the wall of one of her sessions. So yeah, the dream is still alive, and the people, as long as they're still here on the planet, we still can get in the same room together.
Yeah.
That's just it. The list goes on and on. I mean, she's an incredible artist. I love really self-contained artists who play an instrument as well. I mean, I love everybody, whether
Mm-hmm.
you rap, sing, whatever, you're a visual artist, actor, whatever. So I think art is all, it's all a very, very relatable thing, when it comes down to being creative. So yeah, put some creative minds in the same room and let's see what happens.
I
That's what
love
it's
it.
all about. Yeah.
Making making this new project now. What did you take from all your other projects while you were creating this project?
Really just to be as honest as possible, in where my headspace is.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take it too far out of where I'm really, in fact, don't take it anywhere else but where I'm really, really, what I'm resonating right now in my life, which is exactly what you hear. I think the proof is
Yeah.
in just what you hear. When you hear it, you'll see that I'm happy. You'll see that I'm in a content place in my life. Abundance is real. It's when you're resonating on a high frequency that can just make flowers grow. You know what I mean? Literally out the pot.
Yeah.
It can change your life, and also it's something to live your life too. So for me, it's really about setting some goals for myself in my life in terms of like the standard of life that I'm not only living, but I want to continue living. It's like carrying myself with a certain swagger. I mean, a certain self-respect, and at the same time, respect for everyone around me. Most importantly, my wife, and really representing her in the best way, and our relationship in the best way, most realistic, authentic way. Because I think when you go outside of the authenticity and you try to do too much, I've been there, and I know how that feels too. So it's so much easier to just tell the truth and just say what it is, and sprinkle a little bit of whatever you want on top. But I think that it's really important to remain real with people, because I think that's what resonates the most with people, is just the honesty. And when you hear "Waiting on You," that song is really as honest as I could be right now. I wrote that song in one sitting too. It was like, I just feel like there's so much waiting in my life, waiting in lines, waiting to go on stage, waiting, to go home, waiting to go on the road, waiting
Mm-hmm.
to release an album. There's a lot of different anticipating moments. Anticipation is like, poof, I have to live with a lot of anticipation, and you don't want to, sort of go through the moment in your head too much. You want to
Right.
be in the moment. So when you go through the moment, you're really taking it in, like, this is beautiful. So a lot of times relationships is like that, where
Yeah.
you want something to be a certain way right now, and you just can't, but it'll literally have you pacing, whether it's, you know, you want to see that person, or you want a person, or whatever have you. You're with somebody, you're not with somebody. But I think that anticipation can have us going crazy sometimes. So the song itself really talks about that, and what it's
Yeah.
like to wait, and how if you really love somebody, you will wait. If you really feeling somebody, you will wait for them. When they show up, it's always on time. It's even if it seems like it's late or whatever, it's on time. So that's how I feel about love and like manifestation and like my life, and how I've been so blessed in my life. It's like even when might not have came at the time that I, whatever, perceived or wanted it to or whatever. When it shows up, it's there and it's there for real. And yeah, love is always on time for me. That's the way I feel right now. So waiting
Yeah.
on you, I'll wait for the rest of my life. When it shows up, it's on time.
I,
So
I have to say amen to that. You have grown up in the music industry, and I'm curious to know, how have you adjusted? Because when you first came out, it was the music. We knew Jon B, but now we have to know Jon B, the father, the
mm.
husband, and adding the social media. How have you adjusted to TikTok and Instagram and Facebook?
Oh wow. I think it's really cool because there's a transparency that I have now in terms of my general being that
Mhm.
I believe I was pretty well guarded back then when before all this. I was very, very shy. I was sort of taught to be that way too by the guys I was around, like everyone was very recluse and didn't really go out and like they just stayed in the lab and a lot of real scientists, a lot of incredible scientists of music, in terms of like, just people who took this so seriously. I was in the absolute greatest place I could be when I first started out in terms of being around people like me, people who took it as serious as serious and beyond what I was even in the knowledge of at that time, with the business and with companies and how to have production companies and record subsidiary labels and all this. It was definitely an eye-opening experience for me to not only see the creative aspect of what it was to expand and get to use the finest equipment in the world, and work with the finest engineers and some of the finest producers and writers, um, but also the inner workings of the business and how the business works and how it's a business, just like the art is like the art. And there's great artists, there's great businessmen, there's great people at business who know how to rock business or know how to really work business in a way where it's you get the best, just like if you were listening to the best sounding production. Well, it'd be the same thing for your business. Your business is going to look good. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
in that sense of like learning all of that, it's definitely a learning curve. And sometimes you're working with the greatest people in the game, and sometimes you're working with some of the guys who are really, still trying to keep their foot in the game, And so
Yeah.
it's weird, but to experience both sides of the coin and to understand it now, after 30 years of doing this, um, my, the same reasons why I started are the same reasons why I continued, which is really profound for me to know that
Yeah.
I've remained to be myself through all of this. And,
Hmm.
Jonathan Buck is my real name, but Jon B was what I became when I got into the music industry. Um, but I don't feel like Jonathan Buck is gone. I feel like he's still a well and and rocking and doing his thing, and that's me. You know what I mean? But Jon B, people know me as Jon B, but I feel like Jon B now, with being a father and with being a husband all these years, it's really become sort of a persona in the sense of like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's just my nickname. You know what I mean?
Yeah. what
So it's all
amazes you?
good.
What amazes you, as because you're still here? What is amazing for you to see now, with just the music industry, the state of R&B, as it is now?
It amazes me to see the resilience of the art
Hmm.
and in the artists that have so much more than that are experiencing so much more, especially in R&B, because R&B was still growing as a style when I was coming up in the 90s. It was still, you could feel how incredible this was going to impact the world, but it wasn't the volcano just going off in every city like that. It was still growing. So by now, it's like we got just it's part of it's literally everyone's culture now. You can't even, you basically look, call something that's on the radio, even if it sounds like R&B, it's pop music now. Is basically what it is. So you know, it's really beautiful to have grown up in a time where it was still something that we were really craving and wanting more of, you know, and whoever was doing it, you were checking them out, blah, blah, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't that many people. There's a lot of pop cats. There's a lot of pop cats, but there's not that many R&B, real R&B cats.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just beautiful to see the tradition upheld with, especially when they sample, when the generation might not know how to go about making the track sound how they want. So they instantaneously, just like we did in the 90s, where we sampled an old record from, you know, the 60s, 70s, 80s, what, you know, whatever it was before
Yeah.
our time. And we flipped it and they're doing that to my music now, you know, and to our music. So it's a beautiful thing to see the gift keep giving and the music evolves, but great ideas and great ways of thinking don't go away. They don't get old. They just,
Yeah.
they're the gift that keeps giving. So, yeah.
Yeah. For anyone that's listening to you that is just discovering you, because the Hybrid Soul, we're the destination for R&B discovery. I want to just take I want to educate anyone who probably have heard the music and was like, "Oh, that's him." You
Right.
were born on the East Coast, right? In
Yeah, I was
Providence,
born
Rhode
in Rhode
Island.
Island. Yeah.
Right. Then but you grew up in California, in Pasadena.
That's right.
Yeah. How and you got into music because you play instruments. What was your story that led you into I'm going to be a recording artist?
Well, I loved, you know, all my records that I had, my record collection as a young man. I grew up because having a record collection because of my grandparents. They owned a record store. And
Mm-hmm.
so they had an endless supply of music for me to go through. And, you know, for birthday gifts or Christmas time, you know, I had big boxes of records that was, you know, that was my gifts from them. So that was just an ultimate way to kind of start my musical journey, was to gonna go through all that vinyl and just discover all that music and just immerse myself in all that music. So picture me, you know, 5, 6 years old with vinyls all over my floor everywhere. And I'm just going through, oh, that looks cool. Put that on. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so from the Bee Gees to Earth, Wind and Fire to Kool and the Gang to the Jackson Five to Donna uh Diana Diana Ross to Donna Summer to, I mean, you name it. I was playing it, you know, and I was learning. I was a sponge. So by the time, you know, I saw my first drum machine or my first synthesizer, I said, what does that do? And I punched, you know, the button, I pressed the buttons, and I made the rest happen. I was just like, it was just about acquiring the equipment at that point because I knew what I
Right.
wanted to do. I had it in my head, but back then it was like very crude. We didn't have laptops. It wasn't so easy for us, you know, to not to say, because there is a lot involved with, you know, getting your music going now. Not to say that it's that easy, but it's a
Yeah.
lot easier than it was when I started because first of all, everything is so expensive to get. Synthesizers were not cheap back in the 80s. You know what I mean? It was
Mm-hmm.
over $1,000 to get a synthesizer. For my parents, that was kind of out of our price range, you know, for the as far as gifts and things like that. So these were things that got acquired over time by starting with the Casio keyboard and starting with the, you know, little $350 jaunt and then selling that and getting, you know, getting something else with that money plus the, you know, the money from the birthday after, you know, and I really hustled my way to getting the equipment that I ended up having. And you know, you share the excitement of getting a new drum machine or your first drum machine or your first sampler or whatever with your friends, and everyone around you kind of, they're like, well, John don't play sports, but boy, he sure know how to make them beats. Go over to his house, man. He's gonna make a beat for you, you know. And so that was my whole get down with my neighborhood, was just like, how do I share my talents and still have fun and grow up like a normal kid, but nevertheless, this is something that we all kind of have a little curiosity. I know such and such raps down the street, and we got this harmony group I'm putting together, and this. So you know, I was kind of working with all of the talent around in my neighborhood, and pretty soon there was like 3 demos that I produced, you know, and so I started working my magic down as far as just like first time ever taking meetings. I had a couple of my buddies that were a little bit more well versed with doing that sort of thing. And we went down to Hollywood, and I started to just get my little politicking on, with the different
Hmm.
people I was meeting in the music business, and walked through the doors of Tracy Edmonds and Babyface at the time, and they were the ones that signed me, and the rest is what you know now.
Yes. And did you teach yourself how to play keys, or you
Mhm,
took
mhm.
lessons? Wow.
Yeah, I did. I play by ear. I don't play by theory or any sort of like real formal training. It's all been self-taught. My mother, I'm blessed to have a mother who plays piano, though, who's a concert pianist. She's a professional pianist, and she
Hmm.
taught piano as a private teacher for many, many years. Almost 40 years she taught piano. So she's finally retired, and but she still misses her students and teaching, because that's kind of like just that was her thing. And
Amazing.
yeah, but she was definitely the gift that kind of it's in the blood, it's in the genes for sure through my
Yes.
mom, yeah.
If Jon B was not making music and an artist, what occupation would you be in now?
That's an interesting question. You're gonna stump me now. Um, I'd probably be in some sort of educational field with
Okay.
children, or just even with adults. I mean, my father is a professor of music,
Hmm.
and he taught for like almost 40 years himself at Cal State LA here in East LA, in East Los Angeles. And it's actually a really cool thing, because I almost feel like when I collaborate with people, or when I'm, even having conversations with my fans, and they're asking me questions, and I'm answering these. I almost see myself as at this point as an educator, or someone who can pass on a knowledge that might not have been acquired yet, or a different way of thinking about something. And if that's what I do right now, in a sense. So I feel like if I just lent that to another capacity, it'd probably be in some sort of like, yeah, educational field or something like that. But
I love
yeah,
it. I
yeah,
love it. Before I let you go, I want to speak more about the album that we're going to be so blessed to hear.
yeah.
11 tracks.
Thank you.
Do you
Yeah,
have a name? Is a title for the
it's
album now?
it's the name of the first single, which is going to be called "Waiting on You." The album's
Okay.
called "Waiting on You." The appropriate name, I feel, for all the waiting that we've all done on this. This is almost 10 years of waiting. So to put this thing out properly, also putting it out for me properly means having a visual for almost every record. So
Hmm.
we have already 6 videos for this album, which is more than any of my other albums had, which is wonderful, because I feel like people need to understand what I do right now. It's not about only watching what I did when I was 22, 23 years old. I'm 49, and I'm proud to say that as well, because that's all, that's numbers. That's a numbers thing. That's not about the
Hmm.
life that exists in me and what I got to give. I just want people to know, being in the game 30 years at this point means that I still love it like I just started. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because if I
Hmm.
didn't, I'm the one who's bankrolling everything. This is a completely independent project. And so it feels kind of funny to, raise kids and want to give them the best life and be the best husband in the world, but still want to put records out and be this entertainer. It's like sometimes it feels a little selfish. So I want
Yeah.
to make sure that when I do put the money in, invest in videos and invest in tours and invest in radio to be able to play the music properly, that the audience is understanding what this means now. This isn't me going to the bank and trying to get a loan, or going to the uh record companies and saying, well, can you loan me this money? This is me, because of the fans, because you guys come to the shows, and because you want to see me live. I'm able to take that money and make it work for me, and invest back into myself and put these records out. But because of that, it takes 10 years. You know what I'm saying? It may take a
Yeah.
little bit longer, but trust me, the quality has not changed. And when you see the videos, and you come to a show, you see that I still do my thing. I mean, I'm not here to sell anybody. I just want to let you know I'm still in the building.
And how always been. I Before we started, I told you I had such a great time going back listening to the records and like, oh, that's right, he did that. Don't say, and the videos. It's
Yeah,
always
don't
fun.
talk, baby, just
Yeah,
move it.
yeah.
Take a sip, kinda got you feeling dizzy. It's all right with me if it's all right with you. Oh,
That's right.
baby.
Yes.
You know, we got to get back to that good feeling of R&B. So that there's some of that on this album. This new
Yeah.
single, "Waiting on You," featuring Tank. There's a video for that as well. Check that out. There's a song I have with Donnell Jones on the album that I came out with right before the pandemic, happened and kind of shut everything down. So, that song didn't get the critical acclaim that it deserves, but it's one of those like sleeper joints where you find it later when you need to. And the song is called "Understand," featuring Donnell Jones. We got a video for that too as well.
Nice.
And Alex Isley is on the album.
A
She's an
fan.
amazing newcomer, someone that I've been paying attention
Amazing.
to. You asked me about newcomers
Yeah.
and or people that are basically, out now that are of this time right now, this time period. And I mean, I'm definitely impressed with her lineage as well, just being the daughter of Ernie Isley, I'm such a huge Isley Brothers fan. I was just curious to know what her voice would sound like. And then of course it makes so much sense. I mean, we went to the same high school and everything. She went to my old high school, arts high
Wow.
school called
Yeah.
Loxa. And so we have a lot of similarities in our approach too. I love her smooth style. And she got on this song called "Show Me" on my album. And it was another one of those situations where just like Tank, she complimented me so well. She came in, she didn't want to change nothing. And I was like totally open to it, any suggestions or any ideas, lyrically, melodically, whatever. She didn't change anything. She just loved what I wrote for her. And she sang it so beautifully. Oh, so I can't wait to hear that song. And then also we have Rick Ross on the album as well, which was that was incredible to go to his
Nice.
house and experience you know the personality, the real guy, shake a hand, you know what I'm saying, and talk about the mutual respect we have for each other, you know what I mean, musically,
Yeah. Yeah.
artistically, and but yeah, that was really cool to take in all that, in real, in real person, in real, real time. um and yeah, the song is amazing. It's called "Hills to the Hood," the song we did together, and it's basically giving my wife and any lady who's like my wife, who knows how to hold it down from the hills to the hood, they gonna
I
get
love it.
what I'm talking about.
I
It's
love it.
literally that song. So yeah, but yeah, and then we as of today, I'm about to get off this conversation with you. After we finish, I'm going to see DJ Quik because he got the rest of my album that he's finishing it up right now. The last song, which is my one of my favorite, if not my favorite on the album. And it's like my Don't Talk 2024. It's a family reunion. It's a wedding song. It's a graduation song. I mean, it's one of those just uplifting celebratory records that really, for me, I'm celebrating my 17 years, just my marriage with my wife, and really trying to do
Mhm.
that in a party sense. Like let's
Love
turn
it.
up and let's two-step to this real quick.
Two
You know?
legends, DJ Quik and Jon B. How is it working in the studio? I have to ask, how is it
Yeah.
working with him? Because you're
He's
a producer as well.
well, I mean, he's such a genius, and his
Hmm.
history is such a my lineage, our lineage is like I learned how to make beats from watching guys like that, and that was like I want to say late 80s. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like so maybe mid 80s even. So I've been paying attention to DJ Quik. So by the time the 90s came around, like I was already on DJ Quik, as far as like the production and paying attention to the sound selection, the fact that he made his own beats and that he was rapping on his own beats, that really, really, that was something right away. Like, I think it was 88 or 89 or something like that when I first heard a DJ Quick beat. And,
Wow.
um, and so that was like my high school being a freshman in high
Yeah.
school. So yeah, I mean, my first snares that I ever sampled, that I ever made my own beats with were his came from his songs, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like, it's the kind of thing where you have so much respect for somebody because the history is there. And like, even the way that he programmed his beats and made the clap sit on top of the snare like a certain way, it was very like almost Parliament-ish or, you know, Roger Zapp. It just had this very West Coast
Yeah.
sound to it. And so that was the sound like that I was trying to, you know, pay homage to. You know, I wanted to do it like that when I did the song, when I wrote and produced the song Don't Talk. You know, my song Don't Talk has got a very similar, well, the DJ Quik was the influence for that. Absolutely, for
Yeah.
the style on that. And I always tell him that, and he's always like, man, you know, I can hear the triangle. You can hear the influences and stuff. So,
I love it.
but getting to work with the actual guy after having so much admiration all these years, it's a real, you know, it's a real blessing for me, man. It's a real highlight of what I love to do. What I love to do is collaborate. And you know, it's like getting in the studio with Tupac and doing Are You Still Down? That's something I talk about in almost every interview, but I'm never able to have him vouch for it in any way. You know what I mean? Because he's not here in the physical form, and which, you know, which is a it's a burden, and at the same time it's a badge of honor that I wear, which means I will never ever step on stage without singing that song or do an interview without mentioning that. But I think that is my sort of my real symbol of what I can do with collaborating with people. You know, that song "Are You Still Down" was the beginning, it's sort of genesis of, I feel, who I am as an artist and represents
Mhm.
like what I do, you know. And getting to work with DJ Quik is a return to those same energies and that same feeling that I had with, you know, with Pac in the studio. And I
Yeah.
always tell him every time I get with him, I'm like, this is like, I know I could feel the energy. Like, this is the same thing. This is just, this is happening right now. And I'm so blessed to have you, man. You know, that's, you know, for him to still be here, man, and just everything is good. So I want to just speak nothing but positive energy about what it's like to work with both Pac and DJ Quik. But like what we're doing right now is some real special. It just feels very special. It feels like this is the greatest way I want to wrap my album up. And this is why I had to push it back because it was supposed to come out on the 23rd. And I let everybody know, listen, I just linked up with Quik and he made me, not even him. It was me anticipating and thinking of the way that I hear this album. And I just had to stop. I said, I can't turn it in yet. Y'all gotta wait. Springtime. I
Waiting
promise
on you.
you.
Look, waiting on you.
Springtime. Springtime. I promise you. I promise you. I just need this last icing on the cake. That's all I need.
Yeah.
It just needs the ribbon. It just needs the bow on top. That's all it needs. And that's what he's doing. I mean, literally like lacing this thing. It's candy painted now. You know, it's just sometimes it's worth it to go that extra, not sometimes, but every time that I've been sort of like thought about a record, whether it was finished, every time I second guessed myself and I was like, nah, it ain't done. Let's go back. Let's get it. It ended up being better. It's just never, ever, I've never had the experience where I was like, nah, you know what? You did too much. Let's go back. No, it's always like, yes, to the next. So waiting on you, new album, 24, springtime. Let's go.
In April, look, the springtime, we're manifesting just so much abundance of love and support to you,
Thank you.
for you, Jon B. This has been such a pleasure. I thank you for joining the Hybrid Soul. You are an artist that why we do it, why we bring this show to people to just
Thank
show
you.
them what artists like you are about. So we're looking forward to listening to this album over and over again. And we're going to see you on a stage all across the
Yeah.
nation,
Yes.
performing and connecting, continuing to connect with your fans. My guest today is Jon B. New project waiting on you. And thank you once again. It's the Hybrid Soul with Kelly Kinkaid.